Welcome to a Tunisian teaching. Myself and two friends have made this video. Tunisian crochet can also be called Afghan stitch in America or shepherd's knitting. Those are the most common names. Myself and Pauline are left-handed, but Iris is right-handed. So you can see it doesn't matter which is your predominant hand. Anyone can do Tunisian crochet. This is a normal sized crochet hook, and this one is double in length, at least 18 inches long. And this one is as thin as we can get, which is a 2mm. We can also get a double-ended, which is about 18 inches long. I can take about 150 stitches. It's in thin wool. You can also have a double-ended wooden one. These are very nice to work with. You then go on to flexi needles. So you've got a crochet hook at one end, a long piece of wire, and a stop at the other end. You then go on to a double-ended with a piece of flexi wire in between, so you can do double-ended Tunisian crochet. You can then go on to a combi needle, which has a hook at one end and a knitting needle at the other end, so you can do either knitting or crochet or a combination of the two. And to finish off, this is an old bone Tunisian crochet hook with a knob at the end. Start with a loop on the hook, and I've made the loop from the tail. I'm now going to make 5 chain. Yarn round, pull through, yarn round, pull through, yarn round, pull through, yarn round, pull through, yarn round, pull through. I've now got 5 chains made plus the loop on the hook. I turn the work over and I'm going to pick up the ridges. Not the first one, the second one. So put your hook through, yarn round, pull through, 2 loops on the hook, through the next one, yarn round, pull through, 3 on the hook, yarn through, yarn round and pull through, and make sure you do your last one, yarn round and pull through. I have now got 5 loops on the hook, and I'm going to take them off. Yarn round and pull through 1, yarn round through 2, always 2 now, yarn round through 2, yarn round through 2, yarn round through 2. Now on the way back I'm going to pick up the uprights. So hook through, yarn round, pull through, into the next upright, yarn round, pull through, next one, and when I get to the last one I'm going through the upright and the loop at the back, so I have got 2 loops on the hook, yarn round and pull through them both. Now I make sure that the last stitch on the hook is loose, because with all the other ones I'm only picking up 1 thread, but with the end one I'm picking up 2 threads. That gives a nice edge. So yarn round through 1, yarn round through 2, yarn round through 2, yarn round through 2, yarn round through 2, and back to the beginning. And there you are, simple Tunisian stitch. I'm Margaret, and this is the first cardigan I made using the Tunisian simple stitch. It was made with 4-ply yarn and a 7mm Tunisian crochet hook. Here is Iris in a jerkin also made of Tunisian simple stitch. She is carrying a small throat cushion made using a colour blending technique. These cushions are also simple Tunisian.
I am right-handed and I am going to repeat what Margaret has just done. I am going to work into the last loop at the back and pull through. into the loop at the back and pull through, into the loop at the back of the chain and pull through, into the loop at the back of the last stitch of the chain and pull through. I will do my takeoff row now. Yarn over, pull through the first stitch, yarn over, pull through the loop that's on the hook and the next stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, 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 yarn over, pull through 2 until I get to the end of the row again. And that is a row of simple Tunisian crochet.
The dog's body and the snail's shell are both made using the simple Tunisian stitch.
I am now going to show you how to make an increased stitch in a row. I'm going to work into my first vertical loop and pull through, and then into the top loop of the chain and pull a loop through. I've now made an extra stitch before I go into the next vertical loop and pull through. I'll continue along the row, pulling through until I get to the end, when I will do another increased stitch. I am just lifting the stitches and putting them onto the hook as in normal simple Tunisian stitch. I'm now going to do another increased stitch by going into the loop at the top of the chain, pull through, then into the next vertical stitch, and finally into the 2 at the end of the row. I have increased 2 stitches along the row. I will then do a normal takeoff row, through 1, pull through 2, pull through 2, until I get to the end of the row again, and I'll do one more row with an increase working into the top of the chain, and then show another way of increasing. I'm now back to the start again. I will pick up my first vertical loop, pull through, now work into the top of the chain, pull the yarn through, that's my increased stitch, into the next vertical and along the row again. You can increase in the middle of a row if you wish by going into the top of the loop and pulling through, and then carry on to the next vertical stitch. And now I come to the end. Next but one stitch, I go into the top, into the vertical, and through the 2 at the end, making sure that it is loose. Pull through that first stitch and go back. I'm sorry, it slipped. You can now see that we're getting some angling at the side where the increases have occurred. Another type of increase that I have to show you, is this one, where you work into your vertical stitch and then go into the back of the next one, into the loop again, as you did when you were picking up your first row, and make a new stitch. Then go into the vertical stitch, and again like that. I'll do another couple of stitches and do another increase like that, where I'm going into the back loop, turning it over into the back loop, and then going into my next stitch, into the back loop, and into my next vertical. This will be a peculiar shape by the time I have finished, because it will have extra stitches in the middle of the row. Come along, and again I will go into the back of that one and pick up into that vertical, and like that, into that back loop, and into there. And I'll just complete this row without any further increases, and then I'll stop. Into the 2 and pull up. I'm going to stop. I'm now going to show you how to increase several stitches at the end of a row. You make a loop with the yarn in front of the yarn there, and then turn it again and slip it over the hook. Pull it so that it is comfortably tight, and repeat the procedure for the next one. Make a loop, turn it and put it over the end of the hook and pull. Make a loop, turn it and put it over the end of the hook and pull. I've made 3 extra stitches. I'll make one more. Make your loop, turn it again and put it over the end of the hook. And then you will do your working back again as though you were just taking the stitches off in the normal fashion. So I'm going to pull my yarn through, having made a small loop through one, which is rather difficult at first, and now through 2, through the 3rd one that I made, an extra one, through the 4th, and I'm making a mess because this yarn is splitting, and through onto my, sorry, I missed it, going through onto my original row. And I'll start taking off on the original row as I was before. And you can now see that you have an extra row of loops. They're a little bit loose. I've left them loose so that you can see them. And the verticals will be showing there. I'm pulling one up and another one there when you come back again to do your next row. I'm going to go through to the end, and then to increase at the other end I will do a chain, which will be used again similarly to the way you did your original pick-up row at the beginning of the work. Sorry about this yarn. Oh dear, I have split it badly. Bring it out, slip it back on again, and try again. Through and through. You may also notice that I've changed the position of the yarn on my left hand. You may like to hold your yarn this way, just over the first finger, or you may prefer to do it the way that I was doing it originally, which I will show you when we come back again. And I will readjust my yarn on my left hand. Come to the end of the row and then make a row of chain stitches, the number of stitches you want to increase on the end of the row. That's 3, that's 4. Now I will readjust my yarn so that it is now over the second finger of my hand and my left hand, and I will now pick up again into those new stitches that I have just made. There, 2, 3 and 4. And now I'm going back to pick up the verticals, not that one, this one this time, because it is the first one of the original row, and into here, coming back along the row. And now you have an extra 4 stitches on the end of your row, so that you have an increase on the side. And that is enough, I think, for you to see how that was done. To do a decrease in a row, it is fairly simple. You work into 2 vertical loops, yarn round, pull through, and you only have 1 on your hook. Along into the next one, and now I'll decrease again. 2 vertical loops, yarn over, pull through. 1 more plain stitch like that, and now decreasing into 2 vertical loops, and there. 1 and 2, another decrease made, into 1, and I'll finish the row. The takeoff is the same for every row this way in simple Tunisian. And when I've done this, you will see where the decreases have occurred in the row before. Get to the end of the row, and you can see where the 2 stitches there have been pulled together to 1 loop, and that was just 1 ordinary stitch, and there we've got 2 more taken into 1. There's another decrease, and there's another decrease. So you can see the little V made by the 2 stitches being taken together, and that is a simple decrease.
The chiffon bag incorporates regular increasing and decreasing to get the V shape. The colour wheel shows a different method of decreasing.
I am now going to show you how to do Tunisian knit stitch. You put the head of the hook right through the stitch from front to back and pull the yarn through. So it goes in, right through, and the yarn comes over and is pulled back. Through, yarn over, and pull back. Through, yarn over, and pull back. Right through, making sure you're between the legs of that vertical stitch. Through, pull back. Through, pull back. Right through, right through. And the end stitch is the usual Tunisian simple stitch between the 2, under the 2 end stitch parts. I'll take off in the normal way for Tunisian simple stitch, so there's no difficulty there. Just as we were doing with the simple stitch, you just take off 2 loops at a time along the row. And then another row will show you how similar this knit stitch is to stocking stitch in ordinary knitting. Right through the loop to the back, through the loop, through, through, and through, and I'll then hold it out and you'll begin to see how it resembles knitting. The stocking stitch of knitting, and it compares with the vertical lines of the simple stitch.
The fisherman's jumper is worked in knit stitch with a relief pattern of pearl Tunisian stitch, and it's based on a knitted ganzi.
A stitch which gives a nice textured effect is the Tunisian pearl stitch. To work this, Bring the yarn to the front of the work, insert the hook, put it over the yarn and pull it through to the back. Yarn to the front, insert the hook, put the hook over the yarn and pull it through to the back. As you work the row, the vertical bars that you'll be working into get more difficult to find, but persevere because they are there. The yarn has to be brought to the front before every stitch is worked. And the hook goes over the top of the yarn instead of underneath, as is the normal way. Purl stitch can give an uneven edge, and to avoid that you can work a simple stitch into the last stitch. The takeoff is the same as for the simple stitch. Yarn round the hook and through the first loop, yarn round the hook and pull through 2 loops. And you can see this time the hook is going underneath the yarn rather than over the top. The purl stitch can be useful to emphasize a colour change. Bring in the new colour at the end of the row, and using the purl, the 2 colours are entwined in the row. Again, we've gone back to putting the yarn over the hook, the hook over the yarn. And a simple stitch at the end to give a better edging. And again, the normal take-off row.
Here are samples of different stitches using 2 colours with the bird's claw stitch.
Longer stitches can be worked in Tunisian crochet. This is the Tunisian treble. To start off, turning chain are needed, 2 chain to get up to the height of the stitch. Put the yarn round the hook, insert under the vertical bar, yarn round the hook, pull a loop through, yarn round the hook and pull through 2 loops, yarn round the hook and pull through 1 loop, yarn round the hook, insert behind the vertical bar, yarn round hook, pull a loop through, yarn round hook, pull through 2 loops, yarn round hook, pull through 1 loop. The reason for pulling through one loop at the top of the stitch instead of two is that this would decrease and make the stitch an ordinary treble. At the end of the row, I find it better to go behind the single loop rather than the two loops as we do for the Tunisian simple stitch and the shorter stitches. The take-off row is the same as the simple stitch: yarn round hook, pull through one loop, yarn round hook, pull through two loops. Beginning of the row, 2 chain, and as a variation, instead of working the stitches into the stitch directly below, they can be crossed. In this case, we would miss the first stitch, yarn around the hook and go into the next stitch, work the treble, yarn around hook, go back to the stitch that we missed and work a treble, miss the next one and go back to the missed stitch. The return row is exactly the same. Take off the first loop, take off 2 loops all the way along the row. With the treble stitch, the crosses are actually on the row that has just been worked, unlike with the simple stitch where the cross occurs on the previous row.
The reason for working the compensating chain above the Tunisian treble is to avoid the bias shown in this second sample.
Here is Jill in a vest made of Tunisian double crochet using a large Tunisian crochet hook. The vest is made using the Meeber's principle. The pink jumper is made using a treble cross stitch and a variety of other stitches.
Longer Tunisian stitches can also be used to work cable patterns. To do these, work in treble to the position of the cable. On this cable I'm crossing 4 stitches, so I miss the next 2 stitches, put the yarn around the hook twice because I'm travelling a longer distance than I would normally, put the hook around the stitch, not the vertical bar, yarn round hook, pull the loop through, yarn round hook, pull through 2, and the final compensating loop. Round the hook twice, around the next stitch. Sorry, I've gone in the wrong place there. Round the hook twice, around the next stitch, through 2 loops, through 2 loops, and through 1. Then round the hook twice, back to the first of the missed stitches, and work a Tunisian double treble around that. Round the hook twice, back to the second of the missed stitches, and a double treble around that. Then back to trebles, work along the row until you reach the position of the next treble. The next cable. Yarn around the hook twice, insert it behind the stitch and complete a double treble. Yarn around the hook twice again, back to the stitches that were missed, and the second missed stitch. Ordinary trebles, Tunisian trebles in between. Yarn around the hook twice, miss 2 stitches, pick up the next stitch, back to the first of the missed stitches, and the second of the missed stitches, and then Tunisian treble to the end of the row. Working into the last bar, and again the usual take off row, through 1 and then through 2.
This is Pauline, who has made a number of the garments on show. This cardigan is made using a Tunisian cable stitch.
To join in a new ball of yarn in the same colour or a contrast colour, work until there are 2 loops left on the hook. Drop the old ball of yarn, pick up the new and complete the row with the new colour. I'm now going to use the new colour to work a bobble stitch. These can be placed in a regular pattern or irregularly along the row. When you reach the position for working a bobble, put the yarn round the hook, insert it behind the vertical bar and pull a loop through. Repeat that 2, 3, 4 times, or as many times as are specified in the pattern. Put the yarn round the hook and pull through all of the loops on the hook. Then a simple stitch on the other side. Yarn round the hook, insert, pull through, yarn round the hook, insert, pull through, yarn round the hook. And pull through all of the loops on the hook, and it may help to hold them all firmly and just work the hook through, and then a simple stitch to hold it in position. Work to the position of the next bobble, yarn round hook, pull a loop through, once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, yarn round the hook and pull through all of the loops, and a simple stitch on the other side. The take-off row is the simple stitch take-off row. By using a contrast colour, it can be seen that although the bobbles were worked in pink, they're actually lying on the green row. So features like this will appear in the previous row, not on the row that they were worked.
This jumper uses a number of Tunisian stitches, including the bobble stitch we have just demonstrated.
Another pattern stitch is the cross stitch. To work this, miss the next stitch and work a simple stitch into the following stitch, then go back and work a simple stitch into the stitch that was missed. Miss the next stitch, a simple stitch into the following stitch, and go back and work a simple stitch into the missed stitch. At the end of the row I've worked into one loop rather than the two. The take-off row is the normal simple stitch take-off row. And again, as with the bobbles, although the crosses were worked in pink, the actual cross stitch is on the green row, the previous row.
This is a lace cluster stitch. You need a multiple of 4 plus 1 chain for your foundation. Pick up into the chain as for ordinary simple Tunisian crochet. The next pick-up row, take off 2 chain to start with, then make 3 chain, and pull through 5 loops, the one on the hook and 4 more. 3 chain, five loops to be picked up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 chain, and the final 4 loops that are left. To go back and pick up again, make 1 chain at the beginning of the row, pick up into the chain stitches of the previous row, that is 1, 2, 3 into the chains, and then the little loop which is on the top of the cluster, pull through. The 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and into the top of the loop. 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and then into the loop, which will slide towards the back on the last cluster, so you will have to fiddle it to start with and pull it over. Again, we take off through the first 2 loops, 3 chain, through 5 loops, 3 chain, and to the end of the row, 3 chain, pull through the last 4, and you then have a cluster which is a lacy effect. If a fine mohair is used and a large hook, the effect is quite different, and it can be very light and airy.
A very different stitch is the lace stitch, which has a very open appearance, but is still Tunisian crochet.
I am now going to show you Tunisian tweed stitch. We use 2 colours in this, and I've started off by doing a pick-up row in the white, and I'm now going to join in the blue and take off with the blue. So I'll now do my loops along in the normal way that one would do for simple Tunisian. Only I'm using the second colour. I'm keeping the piece of work facing me, and I will now pick up again in the blue. This time it's the blue going along to pick up. And when I reach the end, I go and pick up the two pieces of the white stitch as one normally would from the previous row, and drop the blue and pick up the white yarn. I will now do a row taking off with the white, and then a row again where I will pick up with that white. So you do a complete row of taking off and picking up in one colour and then change to the other. And this time I must remember to pick up two of the blue threads at the end, as one normally does. There. The effect is beginning to show of one row of chain in blue, one row of chain in white. I'm going to drop the white, pick up the blue, hopefully, and again repeat the process, taking off in the blue yarn, to the end, and one more pick up row of blue, and I'll then show you the back of the sample, which is quite a different effect from one colour. And I pick up the two white at the end. And if I turn it over, you will see you have a row of stripes at the back and a row of vertical stitches at the front. And that is the tweed effect stitch.
I'm going to show you colour blending using 4 different balls of yarn. I have done 4 rows of simple Tunisian, one in each colour. Now, I've picked up the first stitch there, the second one simple, the third one. When I get to the 4th stitch, yarn round 3 times, like a drop triple treble, and then I'm going to put the hook through the upright of the same colour as I'm using. Yarn round, hook, yarn round the hook, take off 1, yarn round, take off 2, yarn round, take off 2, yarn round, take off 2, and back to where I started. I'm then going to miss the next upright because I've already worked it down below, and simple Tunisian stitch for 3 stitches. And then another triple treble. So yarn round 3 times and pick up right from the bottom, yarn round off 1, yarn round off 2, yarn round off 2, yarn round off 2, and so on to the end of the row. And then you just take off like you do with simple Tunisian stitch, so it's round and off 2, right to the end of the row. When you get back to the end of the row, you pick up your next colour drop the colour you're working with, and I'm doing simple Tunisian 1, 2, 3, and the upright of the one that I've dropped, and the next one triple treble again, round 3 times, and pick up the same colour down there and take off. So you're doing exactly the same on every row, but you're moving your drop stitch along a row every time. So I miss the upright, pick up the next one, 1, 2, 3, round 3 times, and pick up the upright of the same colour. This is a very regular colour blending exercise. So that's it. And you just take off and you do every row until you've got all your colours blended and a very interesting pattern done. This is Tunisian colour blending. And here's a garment made using colour blending, especially the centre front panel.
I am now going to use 2 colours and both ends of my hook. I have done a pick-up row, like as a normal foundation row. I'm going to now slide my stitches along the hook to the other end, turn it, pick up another colour, and I will do my take-off row with the new colour. So I'm going to go along there with a new colour and do a take-off row. Oh, sorry, I slipped. Right. I take my take-off row, and there we go. This yarn is splitting. I think it's a little bit of a loose weave. I'm now going to pick up again, still in the blue. And then when I've reached the end, I will pick up through the 2 of that. Slide along to the other end again and turn, and again I'm now going to pick up on my white and take off with the white, and each row you do a take-off row with your colour and then slide and pick up row and then slide stitch to the other end. So your balls of colour are at opposite ends to each other this time. Oh dear, it's split. I'll now do a take-up row again. Through both blues at the end and take it off. Slide stitches, turn, pick up the blue yarn, and again take off the blue. the return row, lifting the stitches up again. Until we get to the end, and you will see the effect of the two colours then. Using both ends of a double-ended hook through both of the white at the end. And you get a loopy form there and there, and if I turn it around again, you can see your other colour on the other side forming little loops all the way along. And that is Tunisian double-ended work, the double-ended hook. When you are ready to finish a piece of garment or sample, slip your hook out and replace it with an ordinary crochet hook, 2 sizes smaller than the one you have been using. And then do a slip stitch. Instead of leaving the stitch on the hook, do a slip stitch. Into the vertical, pull through and pull through again. Into the vertical, pull through again. Into the vertical, pull through and through. Vertical stitch, pull through. Notice that I've reverted to the normal position of holding a crochet hook for normal crochet instead of having my hand over the top on the right hand side as I did in the Tunisian hook. And that comes through, and then you pull your end through. Pull knot and cut off your end. And you then have a nice neat chain of stitches along the top finishing off your work.
These 2 harmony guides are designed and published by Lyric Books Limited, 66B, The Broadway, Mill Hill, NW7 3TF, and they have most of the stitches we have used today. If you have any difficulty in getting Tunisian crochet hooks, you can get them by mail order from Holly Oak Crochet, Mail Order Supplies, Cockashall Lane, Cumbark, Cheshire, CW9 6BS. Telephone 0606 891 660. Well, I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. We've certainly enjoyed making it, and I hope you have learned as much as we have on Tunisian crochet.